Talking Reds. It's Friday the 26th of February. I am Andy Heaton, back after a long break of doing this show, and I'm joined for today's show by James McKenna over Zoom. James, how are you?
I'm not bad. How are you, Andy?
Yeah, good. I'm sorry for using your full title there, lad. I thought it was Sunday for a second then.
Yeah.
Sunday best in that. So we're going to kick off today's show. Jürgen, and we've obviously got the Team Talk show coming later today. Keep an eye on that. But Jürgen has just spoken to the press there and a couple of things to talk about. Today, we'll kick off with the obvious ones. Jordan Henderson, it's been announced or it's been revealed that he's had an operation on his groin, and the speculation about when he can be back, but it doesn't particularly look great. So I've got to ask, how many cats have we run over this season? Because it's just like every time now, and like every time we get an injury, Jürgen's got this face, and it goes to Cameron, and he's just like, fucking hell.
But there's going to come a point, isn't there, where he's just going to send 10 lads onto the pitch because the 11th is just going to get hurt. You might as well just make your sub before the game, kind of thing. You might as well just do that because it just seems like, and the worst I think of lots of the injuries is they seem so innocuous. Jordan Henderson's just running with the ball. He's like, trying to get past the man, and he just goes down. He's done for. The Joe Gomez one, lots of them, they don't look like injuries that you keep them out for the length of time that they are. But unfortunately, it seems to be just coming round thick and fast for us, these injuries. And it's. I think someone like Henderson, it's more of a blow. Certainly around the recent ones, because I'll say recent ones, the ones that have happened this year, not the multitude of ones that happened last year. Is for. It's the energy in the team. It's the kind of the talker on the pitch, the captain role, and I know he'll still do that. I think I've just seen him tweet saying, we'll still be there to support the lads during this time. But 6 to 8 weeks, comes back even after that 6 to 8 weeks. But if might not come straight back into the team you wouldn't expect. So what maybe makes a final if we've got one, but it's pretty much the season, and that's making sure he does come back on time, because one of the problems we've had with injuries so far has been that estimated times of return haven't quite been stuck to for whatever reason. So yeah, it's a real big blow. Everyone will be asking the automatic questions of we play centre half, where's the energy coming from? We were all looking forward to maybe Henderson going back into midfield, but now it's kind of like it's just a real. I think he'll be a big loss kind of on the pitch and in the changing room. They'll have to hopefully keep him involved in some way, because we're going to need someone like him to try and keep the lads going on what's going to be a real difficult running.
You talk about leadership there, and you look at the lineups that we put out, and this isn't a slight on the teams that are being put out, but we're in a situation now where you're not just missing Jordan Henderson, you're missing Virgil van Dijk. The more experienced players, Fabinho has been out. Matip's not there. Milner's in and out, and even if Milner's not starting every game, he's in and around the squad. He's on the bench. He's there. And not so much leadership, but players will take responsibility. And again, that isn't a slight on the teams we've been putting up, but lads who've got the experience, who are battle hardened, who know how to work our way through these crises. And what makes it worse is, you mentioned there, injuries that you wouldn't expect Liverpool to get, and these are injuries we haven't been getting. But it seems just to be like this perpetual cycle of like a massive nightmare, where players are playing more than what they should be playing because they're covering, because other players are out injured. Not only that, they're playing positions alien to them, which is then leaving the area where they should be playing bare. And it's all being patched up, and it's impossible to manage. And for all I saw a couple of comments around, the medical team, this, that, and the other. But I remember a couple of weeks ago when people were trying to rush players back in, and this is the results of that. And so you've got to find that balance between being mega careful, like they are with Naby Keita. And I think they're doing this deliberately because they want to make sure they can get him for 10, 15 games, and then. But obviously, the most important thing is the results on the pitch. How do you balance that out?
I think it's an impossible one, and Liverpool will be, trying to answer that conundrum now. Have some of these players played with a knock or a risk that in normal times you wouldn't have chanced them. You'd have told them to take a week or two, a game or two out. You'd have subbed them. You just you don't have that kind of luxury at the moment. And in terms of the leadership stuff, I think that there's two impacts. That one, you're losing a player that has leadership qualities and takes responsibility for things on the pitch when things aren't going right, harassing the referee, speaking to the referee. But other players who thrive off that, who take the encouragement from players like that telling them to do things, they lose something. So this isn't a slant on him, but say Curtis Jones, Jordan Henderson is really vocal on the pitch, talking to the centre half and talking to players like Curtis, giving them praise, telling them what to do, helping them still settle into the team. Kabak now and someone like Curtis loses that, so they lose something and someone. So it's not that, and some people might watch this and go, well, they just need to step up. It isn't as simple as just stepping up. Is there the things you don't know yet and don't have enough experience of doing yet, just because you're just new to this. So it's going to be difficult for all of them. On the injury front, I'm not going to sit here and kind of profess to know what kind of doctors and medics outside Liverpool should or shouldn't do. Jordan, so the Jurgen Klopp is ruthless enough. We've seen this. His mate was his assistant manager, and that relationship was terminated when things weren't going well. Not necessarily on the pitch, but between them. Jurgen Klopp isn't going to sit there and think, oh, well, you know what, my medical team aren't very good, but I'm not going to do nothing about it. If it's something that's got to be fixed, he'll fix it, and if he can fix it, he will. And it might be that it does need fixing, but you can't fix it until the summer because you can't really just get rid of your medical team. It might be that the medical team are fine and it's just literally player fatigue and a whole host of things that have come together. In COVID, we've had 2 or 3 seasons of being at the level we've had. We've been fortunate with injuries. And then, it's all just come at once and the players are playing more minutes than they should in a smaller period of time. It could be a number of those things. So I don't really think we should get into a blame game. The reality is we've got to live with it. Jordan Henderson's out for 6 to 8 weeks. We can sit here and be complaining about injuries, and we should acknowledge them. Melissa Reddy wrote something really good about this after the derby. We should acknowledge them, but there are other things that have caused Liverpool to have problems in how we've played, not just down to the injuries and the missing personnel.
Oh yeah, no. What I'm saying, no, Joe. There's a difference between excuses and reasons. I'm not trying to excuse.
Yeah, no, sorry, that wasn't you.
But no, I know. But you talk about the medical stuff. If you look at this from a weird non-football like prism, the investment that they put into it can't be understated because you're charging a team. Now, forget about the football, for looking after an asset to a company worth about circa 850 million to 900 million pounds. Yeah. And you telling me that just sat there going, give him some penicillin and he'll be sound, run it off, lad. Do you know what I mean? Get the magic sponge.
Couple of Anadin and he can get out there, kind of thing. This isn't. They're not playing at this. This isn't me or you. Playing 7-a-side at goals in Editon and saying, my calf feels a bit tight here, and
get some DPs.
Go off. Yeah, get a bit of DPs on. Or you know what? I'm just gonna have to sit. At the back. I can't run much. This isn't that. And lads we've played with go off with an injury in them and have left you kind of like playing 6v7 and completely skewed the game. If that happens to us as individuals, as everyday, I say footballers, I wouldn't even call us that, but everyday people who play football, then that's going to happen to professional athletes at the same time.
Yeah. What I'd say about this Liverpool side is as well, I've always got the sense that it plays on the edge in so much as kind of like an F1 car. Unless it's at 100%.
When it goes wrong, catastrophically.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that now.
On the injury front, some better news. Fabinho and Milner, the manager saying return to training tomorrow's probably too soon for Sunday, but he didn't rule out the return of Diogo Jota, who's been out for about 3 years now since we signed him last summer. But he said he looked good in training, and it's all right talking about the defence, but we've kind of lacked a little bit of predictability. Like the front line maybe needs freshening up, and that again, there is an attack on the front three. I mean, they've basically played more minutes than what they should have been playing, and hopefully the light can come in and reinvigorate the attack a little, shall we say?
Yeah, there's things that you need sometimes in football that aren't actually. It's not even tactical, is it? I think it will be tactical with him. Just to say, I think he'll offer something different, and the way he plays the game is slightly different than Bobby, but kind of occupies that same space in the team. It might make the lads feel a bit better. It's like good news. It's like seeing a player like that. If the fans are in the ground, seeing them when they go out to warm up, and then when he comes on and gets 20 minutes, there's a lift. There's a natural lift. It's like when, if Salah was on the bench and we needed a goal and you brought him on, there's a lift. Not just because Salah's coming on, you'd expect him to do it, but you get excited. So maybe the players will get excited from that. I think it's needed. There is a bit of a refresh needed in that three. Bobby taking a blow, but, kind of trying to lessen the load on some of them to be creative. Lessen the load on the midfield to try and be creative as well and make things happen because,
Do you think there's an issue with it? Not an issue, but do you think an element of it that isn't considered much is the mental fatigue side of it? like especially when it's not going well. And you're talking about Jota coming in and freshening things up. There's just that kind of that lift.
We're all experiencing this now, doing Zoom meetings non-stop, aren't we? There's just the same old of each day. It could be any day of the week, couldn't it? When we're doing this show, you wouldn't know unless there's certain things to benchmark your week. So the players maybe are experiencing the same. Maybe they're a bit fed up, thinking, "Oh, here we go again, another injury." So some good news might be particularly nice. The fans will certainly welcome it. Interesting Klopp's comments on this, because he does sound closer than the others. Be really interesting. You mentioned Fabinho there about what we do at centre half now. Then, do we go with Kabak and Davis? Do we go 3 at the back?
But you can have to, aren't you? I mean, it doesn't look like Fabinho's going to be back on Sunday, so
Well, you're going to have to do something.
Well, you've got Nat Phillips there as well, who, let's be fair, hasn't disgraced himself at all. And it's unfair to hold Nat Phillips to the bar that has been set by Gomez, Van Dijk, and Mata. But we have got options there.
The difficulty, I think, for the centre halves, and particularly two centre halves like that playing together, maybe that haven't obviously did for the period of the game, is it's who you have in front of them to help them. I think this necessitate, and I've wondered this, and it's been talked about a lot, but does this necessitate a Liverpool formation change? Does playing two centre halves like that kind of make you shift to a 4-2-3-1? I know some people talk about 3 at the back and the wing backs. That a two kind of sitting helps your centre halves a bit more, and lets your fullbacks get on a bit more, which we've done better at kind of in recent games, to be fair, using the fullbacks. It changes things. Teams might not expect it. Sheffield United are going to sit, aren't they? Getting a draw at Anfield would be a great result for them. So, we've got to, I think, approach this game as kind of, what we've got to find a way to win. And, might we be proactive in doing that? And we might have to, do it just by necessity of what players are actually available to play in midfield and play centre half.
You mentioned wing-backs there. This week, we've done a show called The Trends, which focuses on Trent Alexander-Arnold and his role in the side. And here is a little clip.
He is a remarkably unconventional footballer. And I think, Steve, because of the ways in which he's unconventional and because of the ways in which Liverpool use him, I think he actually becomes difficult to assess from a Liverpool point of view, especially when the results aren't there for the Reds.
Yeah, I mean, the telling thing there for me, I mean, the passes into the box, it's ridiculous, really. And it's sort of underrated how rare it is to get possession inside the box, and how important it is to be able to literally just progress the ball into the penalty area. It's clearly something that he aims to do so often, from crossing positions, but also just sort of vertical passes as well.
Just on that, Steve, I've got it here him up against the league average, and this isn't just him up against the league average for fullbacks. It's him up against the league average for wing backs, centre midfielders, and wide midfielders. So not wingers and not attacking midfielders. And you're able to see there how many more times he does things like progress the ball from deep, pass into the box, final third passes, in comparison to people who play in those areas of the pitch as well as fullbacks. And he's so far ahead of the league average, it's ridiculous.
And we're back. So yeah, if you're a Play subscriber, get on that, give it a watch. It's a great show. And if you're not a Tour subscriber, why aren't you a Tour subscriber? Anyway, yeah, the hard sell. We'll talk about Sheffield United in a minute. And you were saying that they'll be made up with the points, but we'll get on to that in a bit. Just briefly, and I want to keep this brief because it's a very private matter. Obviously, the goalkeeper's had some bad news this week. His father passing away suddenly. And it's a private matter and we won't go into it, but it just made me think a little bit about how we treat footballers and attitudes toward them, and how easy it is to forget the young men, Jay, the young men and women who are younger than us, which that kills me that they are, but like they're treated as commodities. And I thought the manager was brilliant today in the press conference where he just shut it down straight away and went, no, not getting into it. But do you think the attitude that we have towards the footballers and professional athletes in matters like this is we don't maybe give them enough, I wouldn't say care, but we don't consider the real life elements of it?
Yeah, well, there's a few bits to this, isn't it? They are employees of Liverpool Football Club, and Liverpool have got a duty of care towards them. And I imagine, I don't know what Alisson's decided to do. I don't know if there's been any conversation about some kind of returning home or visiting family or taking some time out, even if he stays here. It is a duty of care to him as an individual. And I think as fans, we're better at this now. So certainly the reaction to the stuff around Klopp and others has been better. But I can remember in the not too distant past, I remember Xabi Alonso missing, I think, a Liverpool game for the birth of a child. And I remember like some of our fans being very, very, very critical of that. I remember Mascherano and the talk around him leaving. And the story at the time was obviously the impact living here was having on his wife and his family. Is like I remember fans getting really angry at that. Oh, we pay you enough money. It's like being paid enough money in a good job isn't the thing that, you know, still makes you feel happy at home. It's, you know, a career, and he can go and have that same career in Barcelona, and as it was, do it very well, very successfully. So, you know, that's not the measure. These are still everyday people. They have extraordinary talents, and they're placed on an incredibly high pedestal, one that's not always befitting, and the one that they don't always see. But they are ordinary people like us, and the loss Alisson Becker will feel isn't diminished, and he isn't comforted by playing football for Liverpool, or that we all like him, or that we all really need him to play games for us. It makes
the fact he's got a Ferrari on the drive doesn't change a fucking thing.
Alisson Becker has lost his dad in very, very tragic circumstances, and will feel a sense of loss from that, and a loss I could only imagine around not being there, potentially not being able to be there to comfort family and friends, because times like them are when people come together. So I think, you know, we've got to remember who these are as people, and you know, football does not matter at times like this, and that's almost a cliche now to say, but it doesn't, and we should be saying to ourselves, you know, give him what he needs. And you know, he's had lots of messages of support, I think, from across the supporter base in the club, and I hope that continues. And you know, I'll be very surprised to maybe see him on Sunday, and wouldn't care if he didn't play for the rest of the season, because he needed that time, because he will. But he might find solace in playing football.
But I was going to say, at the same time, he might want to play to try and just
forget about it.
I don't really want to get.
He's an incredibly talented enough athlete that if he didn't come to training for a week, he could still turn up and play football on a Sunday afternoon, and Liverpool should seek to accommodate that, because he's a really good player, and we should help him, and he would help us at the same time. So we would manage that. But yeah, it is really tragic, and it is at times like this, people remember these are individuals in the same way that we probably should when, you know, we all criticise and discuss performances, but sometimes the criticism and the berating of them, as we've seen, particularly on social media, crosses a line, and you know, it maybe things like this just reminds them they are, you know, human beings, albeit much younger, much talented, and much better than all of us are when we talk about them.
Well said. Okay, brilliant. Move on. Sheffield United, the weekend. You said something in the first half of the show saying Sheffield United would be happy with a point. I disagree, only because they desperately need more than a point. Where they are at the table at the minute, I think, and I think they'd rather. Basically, I said, if you said to me now, to Chris Wilder now, you flip a coin and you'll either lose or win, or you can take a draw. You take the coin toss.
Yeah. See, no, well, I suppose when you say there about taking a point, Liverpool on their sheet, if at the beginning of the season they're writing out kind of like, I want to get on in 38 games, Liverpool wouldn't have been one where they were putting down, we want to expect points from that game. They will, though, judging by recent performances at Anfield for us, be hopeful and confident that they might pinch something. And I do think, you know, when that game starts on, you know, Sunday night, they will take a point there and then, because they'd be worried that, you know, one Liverpool goal could easily become 2 or 3. It could change how we play. It could be the kickstart of confidence that we need. But for us, it's the same problem we face. What a Sheffield United as a team aren't particularly great at attacking. They're not the kind of team they were last season. But, you know, goals from across the team. The forwards aren't really kind of doing enough for them. So they're gonna, you know, they know it's going to be difficult for them. So their job is to make it difficult for us. And we've struggled when teams have done that, when teams have just come and sat with tactics. Chris Wilder is a really good manager. He's going to have tactics, but also they just know, let's not get beat. We'll be there first and foremost at Anfield. And I think that'll be difficult for us if we kind of haven't learned the lessons of the last few weeks.
As it stands, the 14 points adrift at the bottom of the year from safety, which, I mean, in all likelihood, that's too much anyway. But in a strange way, given the fall now, considering how well they done last year, is there kind of a parallel between their season and our season in so much as that you lose certain key elements and it has a massive impact. So, for instance, Dean Henderson went back to Manchester United. Ramsdale, I don't think is particularly good, and on top of that, it hasn't had the best time anyway. The players who kind of stood out for them last year have either been injured or in and out or out of form, and it's just kind of when you lose that momentum and you kind of struggle, almost try too hard to refine your identity. Yeah. Do you think there's an element to that?
Well, it's also not to flip and not answer that question because I will in a second, but it's in the same way that teams can be really bad, Aston Villa, and then be great the next season. It's that these players are elite level, and it's why teams beat us even when they're down the bottom of the league. The gap at times between these players isn't that great. It's that you can make the sum of the parts, much more. And that's what Liverpool done really well. Liverpool found a system and a way of playing and a confidence and a belief and a whole host of things that come together to make us a really, really, really strong team. Less a squad, but a particularly strong team that we could put onto the pitch. Some of that's gone wrong. It's knocked confidence. Other teams have moved forward. So, we used to say this under Dixon Gillette, didn't we, about not signing players. You don't go backwards when that happens, but standing still, others catch up to you and others close the gap and sometimes go past you. And that's probably happened to Liverpool a bit this season. We probably needed a refresh, physically and mentally. We didn't get it. We haven't brought them bodies and we've had the injuries. It's made it harder. So I think the same will have happened for Sheffield United. A couple of players moving out. Maybe they didn't have a great pre-season. Some of the players have felt tired and gone off form. And it very quickly can snowball, and you see that, and it should be a reminder to some teams who come up that having won 2 seasons isn't the be all and end all. Look at Bournemouth, they struggled, they played really well at times, and then just massively fell off a cliff when some players weren't performing and they weren't at the top of the game. And the same for Liverpool. You don't have a right kind of to be good. You've got to work hard at it. And, Chris Wilder's probably, like Jurgen Klopp, been spending lots and lots of hours at the training ground trying to figure out what's gone wrong and how he can fix it. But, there are parallels, and certainly the level of drop-off. 2 very different clubs, but were really successful in their own right last season. And there's been a big drop-off, and it shows how quickly football can change, and the kind of, no wonder they keep spending huge sums on transfers, because it's a desperate need to try and fix answers that you don't even know what the question is.
Well, you need a crystal ball, don't you? I mean, and you talk about Liverpool not refreshing, or they need to refresh when you look at it. The 3 players that they did sign have been out for significant amount. The players that were brought in to refresh and give you those options on top of the other injury list haven't really had a chance to establish themselves. You talk about needing a win. Liverpool. I did talk about whether they need to win. Liverpool absolutely certainly need a result on Sunday. At the minute, they find themselves 4-5 points outside the top 4, but with games with West Ham have got a tricky fixture coming up, so maybe there's an opportunity to gain ground on them. Leicester have got a tricky game against Arsenal. I don't think it's as bleak as what people are saying. What I'm saying is, if Liverpool win the majority of the games, I think we should be all right. But it's easy enough saying that. They've got to start somewhere, and they've got to start on Sunday.
Yes, I when we drew with Newcastle, was watching a match with my mate, and kind of was like, and he was like, "That's it, the title done." And I was like, "Let's see what it's like by the end of January." Well, little did I know what the end of January was going to look like. And since then, I've kind of been putting them benchmarks in place, because I think March onwards is the kind of run to this. It's the kind of where you get to what it actually looks like and how it shakes out. There's in the fixtures that are coming, some of them have got to start playing each other. And I'm less panicked by where we are. I'm not happy with the season generally, but I'm less panicked by where we are, because I think Liverpool have got the ability to pull this together, and they've got the kind of experience and the know-how to do so, compared to other clubs who've at times faltered and also at times, and generally don't have the experience. For all of the bad performances and the points dropped, we're still there or thereabouts for top 4, which shows how good we were kind of before Christmas, and we went really bad. We were good before Christmas, even with some of these injuries. So it is possible for us, and I think they've all got to play each other. We've still got to play some of them. I'm confident, but you've got to arrest the decline to even let people believe you can work your way back up the table. To say, I think 4 should be the aim now, because I think they just looks a bit too far unless Leicester do falter. you've got to arrest the decline. That's Liverpool's primary one. And a draw against Sheffield United isn't enough to arrest the decline. I think a draw in the derby might have felt like a normal result because it's a derby.
Something to build on. But
something
they need
to build
win
on,
and
but
win
a normal
well.
result. But Liverpool should be beating Sheffield United at home, given where they are in the league. And if they don't, it's win for Liverpool, win or bust, I think. Not just for the league, but in terms of how it looks and feels. So, yeah, it's a huge pressure for Liverpool. Must win for Sheffield United for the reasons you've said, but must win for Liverpool, just I think in terms of how it'll feel to lots of us. So, no pressure on the lads, but, we'll all be sat there at 7:15 on Sunday night thinking, if in 45 minutes this doesn't feel like it's going well, it's going to be another bad week for Liverpool.
Maybe it's the pressure they need. I just pray to God that nothing goes wrong in the first 5 minutes, because I think we've suffered a lot this season where something's gone wrong in the first couple and we've gone away we go again, and we just need to shake ourselves out of that fog. And hopefully Diogo Jota can shake us out of that fog for us. I'm back in Liverpool for the win on Sunday. Jay, what do you think?
Yeah, Liverpool win. I don't think it'll be as easy as I'll quite like, and certainly after 5 minutes, I'm not confident, but an early goal would make us feel better. But Liverpool 2-0, but I wouldn't be surprised to see this be 2-0 in the first half, and hopefully we can just settle rather than it look like a panic for 90 minutes.
All I'm praying for, Jay, is a good result, and the 11 on the pitch all come at the start of the game, come off uninjured, unscathed, with 3 points for the Reds. That's been Talking Reds. I've been Andy Heaton. Jay's been Jay McKenna. Subscribe, all that gear. Some good stuff coming up. Let's go.